I want to get your take on another topic as well, seeing as you're on the Transportation and Infrastructure Committee. A lot of talk about infrastructure and, of course, about our supply lines, our supply chain. One of the guys who's supposed to be doing a lot about it is that man on the screen right there, Pete Buttigieg, who is the Transportation Secretary, who we have also learned took a couple of months of paternity in the middle of this crisis. Well, he's apparently back now, just as the crisis is ramping up, Congressman. And here's part of what he said to our own Bret Baier when asked about the delays and these, quote, high-class problems, as a Obama, or Biden economist put it. This is how he responded. Take a listen.
So are new parents and any parent going to get the toys that they want to get for Christmas?
Well, I know that I'll be very excited to shop for the first Christmas for my new kids. Remember, you can't talk about supply without talking about demand.
Right.
Part of the reason we are where we are is that the president successfully brought this economy out of the teeth of a recession.
So you're saying
People
that's...
are buying more than ever before. We're seeing record goods coming through our ports. The demand is there, which is great news. It represents a policy success. Now we got to make sure those supply chains are there to support it.
So you're saying that's a high-class problem?
What I'm saying is that we are better off because the economy is growing, and the economy is growing thanks to the leadership of this president.
Congressman, I got to believe that inspires as much faith for you as it does for us.
Well, listen, I mean, now we know why there was all these problems in the Soviet Union and Cuba where there's nothing on the shelf. It's because of demand problem, right? Yes. I mean, that's the problem, man, okay? I mean, there's a demand problem. If people just stopped demanding anything, all of these things would be on the shelf. And so that is so ludicrous. It's unbelievable that that the Secretary of Transportation could say that it is demand problem and this great economy that we have right now. You know, we've had a great economy under the Trump administration, and the Biden administration has, every decision they've made has backfired on them. Every decision that they've made has really hurt the American people. Look, I was speaking to a couple of executives. An executive of an airline with for cargo, an executive for an airline with passengers, and they're deadly afraid of this vaccine mandate that's now coming down, where they've got these supply problems, and we got to get as many pilots, as many truck drivers, as many port workers on the job as possible. Now you're going to have this vaccine mandate that says to them that they have to fire, hundreds of their workers at this time, in this critical time, when we have the holiday season coming. So, it just shows the insensitivity of this administration to the working people of America. It's an insult.
It's an insult, and it's incompetence. What a great observation. Little did we know that when we see barren shelves in Venezuela, that it's a demand problem.
Who knew? I mean, my God. I mean, we just found out today. Pete Buttigieg has figured it out, what's going on in Venezuela and in the old Soviet Union and Cuba and all those other communist socialist countries that can't get the goods and the products that their people want to the shelves because, well, those people shouldn't want them. Then, heck, all those shelves will be full.
Who knew might have been Democratic politicians, because I'd be fascinated to know, if we look back in history at Venezuelan politicians or Soviet politicians, how they explained their empty store shelves. Were they blaming it at that time on demand problems? So in other words, had the playbook been written for how you deal with such a situation? But let's stay within the Democratic Party for just one moment, Congressman, because the infighting, by the way, it's been laid bare. It's in full display right now. Senator Joe Manchin of West Virginia has now dismissively called Senator Bernie Sanders a self-declared independent socialist. This is in response to Sanders publishing an op-ed in a West Virginia newspaper. I'm going to read to you exactly what Joe Manchin had to say, and I want to get your response. He said, "This isn't the first time an out-of-stater has tried to tell West Virginians what is best for them, despite having no relationship to the state. Congress should proceed with caution on any additional spending, and I will not vote for a reckless expansion of government programs. No op-ed from a self-declared independent socialist is going to change that." Your response, Congressman?
Amen. Amen to Joe Manchin. He's spot on. Bernie Sanders wants to tell us here in America how life would be great if we just were a little bit more like the Soviet Union, the place where he went to honeymoon, right? I wonder what he bought in the Soviet Union. Not much, because probably there wasn't anything on the shelves, because again, those Soviets, they wanted too much stuff, man. That's why those shelves were empty. And so, yeah, Manchin, I think, the senator is spot on. Bernie Sanders wants to change America fundamentally. These, especially the reconciliation bill, wants to change, us fundamentally. There are programs in there that are incredible. The amount is going to put our kids and our grandchildren in debt. We're stealing from our children and our grandchildren their future. But it's okay with Bernie Sanders, and I think he's right. I think Joe Manchin's absolutely right. That somebody who's so out of touch with what normal, rank and file, just normal people want and desire, every day, like Bernie Sanders is going into West Virginia to tell them what's good for them. Good for you, Senator Manchin. I think you put him on the spot. I think you hit it right on the spot and exactly what Bernie Sanders is all about.
Yeah, I mean, I really think it's why it's so important that there are congressmen like you who, have a direct experience as a Cuban American with what we're looking at. Anyone who knows what's happened in Venezuela or has had family in Cuba looks at what we're seeing right now in our government and says, boy, we've seen this before. And it's really scary. And I just think you have such an important role in sort of raising the flag because I think too many Americans have taken for granted our prosperity and our freedom. And we are on a track to socialism and communism, and it is very scary. I want to talk to you, speaking of authoritarianism, about the vaccine mandates in Florida. So Biden is saying that he wants to make this happen. He's mandating vaccines for everybody, and your governor in the free state of Florida is fighting it. He says that he's going to fight the Biden administration on this. Tell us how that's going in Florida.
Well, look, the governor's actually had a pretty good track record here fighting the federal government. I am 100% behind our governor's efforts to file that lawsuit and stop the madness. I mean, let's look at airline pilots, and they're now going to be mandated to be vaccinated, and yet you could have 300 passengers in the back that are not vaccinated, but the pilot is the one that's going to spread it all, and so there is no science here. It's all political science. It's just a way to keep this going, and it really makes no sense. And it's actually going to put our supply chain in real jeopardy. It's going to make things worse. And I think, my prediction is that the Biden administration is going to have to back off on this a little bit because there are hundreds of pilots and truck drivers and port workers, et cetera, even first responders that are saying no to the vaccine for their own reasons, and some people are saying, well, they're listening to misinformation. A lot of the reasons that they have are logical, and while I may disagree with some, I'm vaccinated myself, that's what America's all about. The ability to, pick and choose what you want to do as an individual, especially a medical decision like this, which is so important. Are you going to be vaccinated or not? That's a personal decision. That's not something that the federal government should be mandating, especially when it's going to really cause, problems up and down the economy of the United States.
Yeah, you think the supply chain is broken now. Wait till 20%, even 10% of Federal Express or UPS's workforce says, we're not ready. We're not going to come in under this mandate. Or Amazon. Wait till everything gets shut down.
Yeah. Congressman, I hope you're right on walking back the mandates. Again, we're almost out of time. Real quick, to that second topic we asked you about. Yes, the Democrats are infighting right now, but what would you handicap the likelihood that they come together around a number around $2 trillion? That's the latest we're hearing for that reconciliation bill. Still terrible, still too expensive, but do you think they find a way to forge it?
Well, look, I thought that they would come to some kind of agreement, but now when Joe Manchin, what he put on that tweet, he just didn't talk about numbers. He talked about programs, and those programs embedded in that reconciliation is really. That's the poison right there, the programs. It's not the amount. Remember, they can always reduce the amount by just simply reducing the number of years where it's authorized.
Yep.
And so you have something that should actually, the whole thing really cost about close to $6 trillion if you score it out over 10 years. They've tricked it down to 3.5 by some of these programs only being authorized for 3 or 4 years. They can reduce that by saying 2 or 3 years and get it down to $2 trillion. But it's the programs, it's the policies that's embedded in that, and I am heartened by what Joe Manchin, wrote in that tweet, that there are things there are programs, et cetera, that he's not voting for. So I think now that's a fly in the ointment of the Democrats' plans.
Again, I hope you're right. It has never been about the dollar amount. It's always been about what they can slip in, and then hoping they can reauthorize it again. Congressman Jimenez, thank you so much for your time. Great stuff.
Thank you,
pleasure.
Congressman.
Thank you.